Hey friends, thanks for meeting me again on this beautiful Monday. Part 2 of my interview with Bill Kneebone of BK Inspections. For anybody who saw our last post, he's been in the business for 11 years, home inspecting in the Dane County and surrounding areas. I do know he does great work. I get great feedback from my clients when they do go through Bill. One of the big things I wanted to ask Bill when he got here was about radon. Some of my clients are very well versed, they understand what it is, but when I ask other ones about, hey, do you want radon testing for this offer to purchase of this home that you are in love with? Do you want it? And they give me that blank stare, they're not quite sure what it is. So I thought I'd bring an expert out, actually. So Bill, can you tell everybody about radon?
Sure, let's start from the beginning. What is radon? Radon is the mineral uranium that's in the soil. And around the country there's different areas. Some places have no uranium in the soil at all. Some places have concentrated areas of uranium. So if you look at the EPA map, there's a color-coded map on the EPA's website. Southern Wisconsin is a spot where we do have some radon. We do have uranium in the soil. So what is radon? Radon is the mineral uranium, and over the years it breaks down, that mineral breaks down and turns into a gas called radon. The radon rises up into potentially your house. The EPA says that radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer in the United States. Smoking and then radon gas. So a lot of people are alarmed by that. So it's a dangerous gas, it's a carcinogen, can cause lung cancer. All right, so that sounds scary. That's the scary part of it. We don't want radon in our house. The good news is though that the radon is very easily removed from the house. The radon mitigation systems, when I first started this business, were kind of expensive, but have come down to somewhere, typically a radon system is between $600 and $700, so not too bad. A radon test is done by me. Can either be done on the day of the inspection, but what I like to do is start the radon test 2 days. It's a 2-day test, 2 days before the inspection. That way during the inspection we can have the results, use an electronic machine, so we have the results immediately. So we will know if we have high radon levels. The magic number for radon, according to the EPA, is number 4 picocurie per liter. So anything 4 or above needs to be mitigated. The way to get rid of the radon is actually a pretty simple process. A radon mitigation system, if there's a sump pump, they'll seal off the sump pump. They'll run a 4-inch or 6-inch PVC pipe up and vent out. There's a fan that runs continuously and vents it to the outside. Basically using the drain tile system and the gravel underneath the house to collect and vent the radon out of the house. Those systems are very effective. I have never inspected a house with a working system that tested high. So the question is, should we test? I personally think a radon, if you don't have a radon system in the house, you should test. It's a good idea for a couple reasons. If you're well, let's backtrack. If you're going to be spending time in the basement, it's more important because that's where it'll be concentrated. So if it's a really, really old house, you're never going to be in the basement. You probably don't need to test. If you have a working system, you don't need to test. But if it's a finished basement, it's a good idea to test because you're going to be spending time down there. Another good reason to test is someday you may sell that house and then the next buyer will test and then you end up paying for the system. And typically the radon system, not always, but typically is paid for by the seller. So that's another good reason to test. It's cheaper. The radon test is $125, the system $700.
I do have a question for you. In your
Sure.
personal experience, what is the highest level you've ever seen?
That's a good question, and the funny kind of answer to that is my own house that I was buying, I tested over 38.
Holy.
Yes, very high test. And just to give you an example, that was not even in the basement. I just set up a test, and so very high radon levels in this house. Installed the system, and that brought it down to 0.8. So the systems work really well, really well.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. Well, thank you. That's actually giving me a lot of good info that I wasn't aware of either. So That's it for part 2. Join us next week for part 3 of my interview with Bill, and until then, stay warm.